1.6 Part 1, Unity, Variety, and Balance. So remember, chapters 1.1 through 1.10 deal with the elements and the principles. So in our last chapter, 1.5, we dealt with time and motion, and that is, in some cases, in some books, I will tell you there's a slight difference depending on the book. But that is the end of our elements, and now we're going to get into our principles. And I did list it. It is in, remember, it's on the website. It's on the Canvas site under the B1 Learning Tools. You want to look under there for a little bit more of a breakdown of how these work. Okay, one friend, and I think I mentioned this, she explained the elements are the parts of the ingredients in the recipe, like egg, milk, sugar, cheese, flour, right? And the principles, which we're getting into now, chapter 1.6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, these are how you use those ingredients, because you could cook a cake, you could cook an omelet, you could cook cookies, different things. That's how you're going to use them. So unity is our first organizing principle of design. So it refers to the imposition of order and harmony on a design. So usually there's some repetition, and within Unity, we'll get into that. Variety is the visual diversity of different ideas, media, and elements, and balance refers to distribution of elements within a work. So the Unity is going to provide cohesiveness. It's going to make sense to us. A lot of times we have a grid, which we're about to look at a diagram, but you'll have a grid or some kind of organizing principle, like a landscape has a sky and a field of grass and perhaps some trees in the foreground. There's unity to it. There's a sense of things making sense. Now, we have a lot of artwork that has unity. We have a lot that has variety. There's some chaos. There's organization. We're going to see a large spectrum of different works. So some artists will select and organize materials into a harmonious composition. That's their intent. They want it to be harmonious and calming and orderly. Now, some artists don't, so things will be different in that case. So there's three kinds of unity: compositional or visual unity. It looks unified. Conceptual, the ideas behind it are of a unified nature, even though it will visually not look similar. And the Gestalt unity, which kind of refers to the whole is larger than its parts, like it's beyond. We just get a sense of it as being unified. So compositional unity, an artist is creating organizing a visual, all the visual aspects, everything in it, like it's all blue, right? Or it's all a pattern of squares, or it's all going to be repetitions of symmetry, which we're about to look at. If it's too similar, it can get a little boring or monotonous, and too much variety can mean a lack of structure and the absence of a central idea. It gets too chaotic. Now, a lot of artists, when you're in school, we push you to get to the point where you start to lose sense, because we want you to kind of find where that edge is. Not that we want you to fail, but a lot of times we want you to push past it in one case, so on the next go round you understand where that edge is. Because some students, they suffer from playing it too safe and they never get crazy enough, if that makes sense. Okay, so like a student would never bother to go this far because it would just be too upsetting. Okay, so A, we have a lot of compositional unity. It's very strong here. We just have rectangles and squares, and then a larger diagram of rectangles and squares. Very orderly. Even though it's not perfectly symmetrical or balanced, it's a little bit asymmetrical, but that's okay. This one, we start to use circles instead of just squares. So there's a little bit of both, and a curved line. So it's still making sense, but it's creating a little more tension or drama. So visual interest is increasing without losing complete unity. C, we start to get a little far out there. We have now triangles and we have a diagonal line as well as this horizontal line and a curved line and the squares. So we've added a lot. And we're starting to lose any sensibility of what's going on, but we still do have unity. We have repetition with the triangles, repetition with the circles, repetition with the squares. Now, if we took it down to one circle, one square, I think we'd start to lose our sense of unity. It's an interactive exercise on Canvas for you. We're going to look at Hokusai. I'm going to skip back on there for just a second. So when we're looking at Hokusai's Great Wave offshore at Kanagawa, we are seeing unity in that even though it's a chaotic scene, it's upsetting and chaotic. Tidal waves were something, that a lot of people experienced back then and now. But this huge wave's coming and it's scary. But the calming or the unified or the orderliness of it, those are sometimes all the same things. In this case, it is, has some repetition, sort of almost finger-like structures coming off of those waves. And you see it down here too. So we get a lot of repetition. It's not exactly the same over here, but similar. Repetition of figures, of boats, that's happening. And then we have a repetition of the peak of Mount Fuji. And this wave is almost Mount Fuji-like, blue and white, very simple color palette there. And curves as well. So we'll look about the unified composition, organizing repetitions of shapes, colors, textures, and patterns. Okay, that is how we have unity and harmony in such a wild, chaotic scene. Another unified piece that we're going to look at in interior design, and it's really interesting because our author breaks this down into curves. If we look at this way, linear shapes, but the curves are what I feel I notice most. That upstairs balcony, the staircase coming here, the archways, and then you have a lot of geometric repetition. The windows are very balanced, and a triangle at the top. Now let's go back and look at it again for a moment. This is a really nice example by Michael Weingrod, and he's carefully choosing these space with these curved and straight lines to complement one another, and the directional lines are going to repeat. Pardon Otis, he's doesn't like it when I don't talk to him alone. All right. So the balance of curved and straight lines complement each other. The linear patterns of curved lines repeat. Repetition is one of our key sort of indicators toward unity. If it repeats in some kind of way, usually it's shape or line or color, okay? So you'll see it as being harmonious. And it's not boring because it's got some variety, like we talked about with these curves. Arch, curved balcony, curved stairway, line, line here, horizontal line. Then we have some verticals. We have some repeating windows that are, actually that's a framed picture. And that's a doorway, but that has, some frame pictures and a window back there, or door. All right.